And welcome back. Now this week's is a continuation of last week, where I was going to talk about the BBC URLs and what we have to do to the code specifically on this web player to get the BBC to play. But it presumably could apply to other players that you might have around, and maybe you won't need any code changes unlike the one you do on here. It's a very, very simple minor change though, believe me, very simple to do. So we're going to have a look at that, find out where all the URLs is listed, talk about the BBC in general, and then think about future videos, and I need your input, so don't go away. A quick shout out to PCBWay, and things have been happening there. First of all, you can still get your PCBs for $5 for 10 pieces, and the turnaround time is anything from 24 hours upwards. And don't forget that if you want some SMT soldering done on your behalf, it's $30 for up to 20 pieces. Great for those prototype runs. But there's more, much more at PCBWay just now. If you notice at the top of their webpage, you'll see the CNC 3D printing menu selection. Look at this, they do 3D printing, CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication and injection molding. The list goes on and on. Let's have a quick look at that page. So here on the 3D printing page, you can see the parameters that you need to specify, as well as your CAD drawings. And similarly, you can go to the CNC machining page, the sheet metal bending and cutting, and finally the injection molding. I tell you, the sky's the limit. Oh look, they've got a Raspberry Pi Pico contest. Now there's an interesting thing. Let's have a quick look at that webpage, shall we? So here's the PCBWay Raspberry Pi Pico contest. What they're suggesting is that you can either get a Raspberry Pi Pico from their gift shop and make your project, or if you've already got one, submit your project, and the best of luck. I tell you, the sky's the limit. More details available from the PCBWay website. Go and have a look now. Okay, one little thing I'm going to cram in here. This is my ESP32 Web Radio, which obviously hasn't had any code changes for the last 3 months or so. Except one, which we'll talk about in just a sec. Now, the problem that people have expressed over the last month or more, 6 weeks I think, was that the BBC announced BBC update on IC streams. We're making some changes to our IC streams and some vendors may need to update. We're not turning off these streams or making any changes until the 31st of March 2021. And if you use URLs from either of those two host names, they will stop. And indeed, they did stop after March the 2021. Now it's worth pausing at this point and reading that last sentence. The BBC considers its use of the IC protocol deprecated. Now what does that mean to us? Well, it means if insufficient people listen to it on this SHOUTcast stream, as per this ESP32 Web Radio, we will no longer be able to receive it in that way. In fact, they even talk in that article, the link of which is below, about they want secure TLS connections rather than just standard HTTP. This could be tricky in the future, so don't be surprised if things change yet again going forward. So thank you, BBC. So in summary, what all this means is, right, we're stopping all our transmissions on these various URLs, and we're going to put them somewhere else now. And more importantly, we're only going to continue transmitting the format that internet radios use, the IC format, ICY, as long as people listen to it. So what they're obviously doing is monitoring how many people are connecting to their servers, and they're going, do you know what, a few thousand listeners isn't enough, we're going to can it. Or if there's hundreds of thousands of people listening, then they'll keep it going. So just a warning there that they could decide to terminate the service. In the meantime though, even though people have realized how they can extract the new URLs, and there's a GitHub page, which I'll show you in just a sec, where all the BBC radio stations are listed. People have said, I can't listen to it. It's full of burbles and chirps and stuff like that. Well, as you can hear from this one, I'll just have a quick blast of Radio 4. I don't think there would be too many problems with the copyright on this one.
Marcus, how nice to see you.
Indeed.
Marcus Chilton-Jones is the curator of this.
Right, okay, that's BBC Radio 4, and in that little blast you heard that it was just okay. All right, I don't know what it is, the Archers or something. Do the Archers still run? Anyway, it's running fine, and there has to be a slight change to the code when you connect to the station URL. And let me show you what that is, because it applies not just to this code running on here, but I guess every other radio station code that uses the HTTP format. Right, so this is a comment made by whoever runs random sporadic projects here. They put a comment on my ESP32 multitasking about the BBC cancelling their transmissions and all this. I missed all this because I was busy moving. And the cure that he's suggested here is to change the HTTP 1.1 in the get statement of your code to HTTP 1.0. Now, I don't know what the difference is between 1.1 and 1.0. What I can tell you is, though, that I made the change in my PlatformIO code, which you probably can't quite see here, but I've changed it. Let's see if I can zoom in on this bit here. So there, it's HTTP 1.0, and yes, it most certainly does work. I don't know why. I'm going to have to look into what the differences are between the protocols between 1.0 and 1.1. Why the BBC has to be different to everybody else, yet again. Don't get me started. I've been quite calm over the last few months. But the BBC really have screwed this up. They just, in their ivory towers, they just dictate the way we're going to listen to their stuff. Because now, of course, I've changed this code in my system here. I'm using HTTP 1.0 for all my stations. Now, so far, I only did it last night, so far, it all seems to be working. But why should I be forced to use 1.0 when 1.1 has been working up to now, including with the old style BBC URLs? I'm going to have to look into that and find out why. And maybe I'm going to have some kind of logic in the program, or as part of the station list that I use, I'm going to have to say this uses HTTP protocol 1.0 or 1.1. It's just a nightmare. No, the BBC is a nightmare. I don't know why they're like that, why they have to just bully their way around and say you will use this and you will not use that URL. Every other commercial radio station publishes their URLs, MP3 format or some SHOUTcast format, and go, please take it. We'll transmit on here forever because we want you to listen to us, because we send you lots of adverts along with the music. Fine. BBC, no adverts, can do what they want, can't they? And there's even a whisper of a rumour, again, that if you're outside of the UK, you might not still be able to listen to these stations because it will detect where your IP address is and go, no, I'm not serving you up to that IP address. I don't know about that. I'm waiting for some feedback from my contact over in Europe to tell me whether or not the changes that I've suggested he makes, like this one here, is going to work for his ESP32 radio project. So it's good news in a way. It's good news that we can fix the BBC issue and still listen to it at where we want to listen to it on the device we want to listen to, just by typing in a URL. It's just irksome that we have to do it this way at all. And of course, as I say, the BBC have threatened to stop transmitting in this format at all if not enough people listen to it. And what do they mean by not enough? Well, they're not telling us, are they? For all we know, it could be 1,000 listeners, or it could be 100,000. I don't know. No idea at all. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Now, as you can see, the code that you're looking at there is on PlatformIO. Having just talked to you about the Arduino IDE and how wonderful it is, I'm still using PlatformIO, and I probably intend to continue using PlatformIO because it's very mature, very stable, works like a dream. I don't get any of those funny messages about the project being too large. And you can see there's loads and loads and loads of files that I've got, lots of files. In fact, the code compiles to about 1 megabyte, which is quite large for a file of code, hex data. Anyway, that's for a future video. We'll talk about PlatformIO a bit more. I'm torn now, you see, between do I promote the Arduino IDE more and show you more things what to do with it, or do I go with PlatformIO? Well, I'm going to have to do both because I know that beginners will not get on with PlatformIO. The learning curve's too steep. All right, it's just, and it would just put people off. So Arduino IDE definitely to start with. It's only when you outgrow that you either think I want the advanced features of the Arduino IDE, or I'll move to a different one. And other people use Actimel Studio, or they use Eclipse, or whatever. Yeah, that's all for future weeks and months, and possibly even years going forward. Cool. So I was pointed to this web page It was a convoluted series of links, comments in various blogs and pointing to other things. Anyway, the point is, this GitHub by BPSIB, no idea who that is, no names, no nothing, lists all the playlist stations for all, and I do mean all, the BBC web stations, okay? Slight caveat here, remember the BBC could change these and take them off air at any time, but I guess these are valid as of now, May, June 2021, okay? Now, at the top here, you'll see this says BBC Radio PLS.M3U. Now, that means it's a playlist. My code in my ESP32 Web Radio does not understand playlists. I'll put in brackets yet, because I'm sort of thinking, do you know what it should do? And it would be a relatively straightforward task to pass a playlist file, because all the playlist file is some information, some metadata, and then the actual URL in between. However, he's done all the hard work for us. So if we scroll down a bit, now you see here bbcradio.m3u. Now these are the actual URLs in this file. So we just take radio 2. Let's go for radio 2. There we are, that one there. Okay, so they all come from stream.live.vc.bbcmedia.co.uk. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? And then the name of the radio station at the end. So the one above it is BBC_radio_1. This is BBC_radio_2. Yeah, I think you're getting the pattern, right? 3, 4 FM, 4 long wave online, non-UK. Be aware that if you do not live in the UK, you might not be able to get hold of some of these or any of these radio stations that do not have this non-UK bit in, because, yeah, the BBC blocks you basically. It goes, you are not part of the United Kingdom. You have not paid any kind of license fee to the BBC. We're not letting you have them. Of course, if you use a VPN, then they won't know, will they? Anyway, so there's not just these main ones. There are dozens and dozens, or even local ones, like the Welsh and the Cornish and what have you. Yeah, so it goes on and on and on and on and on. If you want to put all those into your radio station, fine. I've just chosen a couple to try it out with. And as you saw, that BBC Radio 2 works absolutely fine. Or was it 4? Might have been 4 I just showed you, wasn't it? Come on, I recorded that bit last week. Okay, keep up. Right, so that's where it is. Now, just in case this GitHub disappears or whatever, I'm going to download this file and the one above it, okay, the playlist one, and put that nice and safe somewhere, so that if it does disappear in the future, at least we've got access to it. I suspect not, though, and it's worthwhile coming back to this list every now and again, because there are some stations not on here. Now, a lot of people have already forked this GitHub, and there's one in particular that's actually had some updates. If I can go to that one. So this one here, Duracell 80, BBC Radio, HLS non-UK.m3, well, whatever. Here's some playlist files that not all of these are in that previous one. All right, so he's added some to here. And we just scroll down to the actual URLs again. This is the bit that interests us. These are different URLs. I haven't tested these out though. I've just seen that he's forked it and added some extra information in it. So go away and have a look at all these, and then transcribe those URLs into your favourite radio station player, or indeed my ESP32 one, and that works absolutely fine, as you saw. And I've just tested it a few minutes ago to make sure it still worked, and it does. So that's where we are with the BBC stuff at the moment. I still haven't worked out why HTTP 1.0 works and 1.1 doesn't. The only major difference is that 1.1 is everything that 1.0 was, plus you can have multiple streams. Okay, so the server might say, oh, you want this web page, I'll give you 4 or 5 concurrent streams to get your stuff loaded quicker. Doesn't really apply to audio, does it? So I don't know why that would do it. What happens in my code for my player, I can tell you exactly what happens, not that it helps you understand it anymore. So within here, imagine you've got this MP3 stream coming down, right? Just like playing it off, a USB stick or something. It's an MP3 format. So you've got stream after stream of bytes that all describe the music, right? It's digitized. And then every so often, the metadata interval, you have a single byte that says how many bytes are the metadata, you know, the track title and the radio station and all that, which, as you can see on here, is nothing more than it says BBC Radio 4 FM. That's all it says. And I've looked into it, and that's all it says. But what happens is if you use HTTP 1.1, the metadata is corrupt. And by corrupt, I mean I detect non-printable characters within that metadata. So if I get a character, you know, 02 or 06, which are not printable, I assume that something's gone wrong and I've misread something, or there's been a glitch in the airwaves or something, and it goes, no good, discard that, retune back into the station, so do another get command and read it again and continue from there. Now, for all other radio stations, that works wonderfully well, and because we have a circular buffer, all you hear is that the music might jump, you know, like going back to the 70s, you know, we have actual records. If you were to push the stylus a track, you know, just boop, and it just might jump, or occasionally it repeats, which I don't quite understand. But anyway, with a circular buffer on here, you don't really notice it. But the BBC, unfortunately, it reads this information, the metadata, it goes, oh, corrupt, retune, read it, oh, corrupt, retune, oh, corrupt, yeah, you get it. And it just keeps doing that a lot of the time. Occasionally it latches on, but then you get the burbles and squeaks and things that other people have complained about. And I think this is just absolute nonsense. It's driving me nuts. Going back to HTTP 1.0, though, stops all that. So what the BBC are doing, I don't know. And I just haven't got the time to investigate what is going on when it should just work out the box, quite frankly. So maybe somebody else has already figured it out, you know, what we have to do. Maybe there's some other command we have to use as part of the get command. I don't know. Anyway, it's driving me to distraction, but at least I've got a working player now. The only problem is, well, I say problem, is that all the radio stations on here are now using HTTP 1.0, which works, but, you know, why should I be forced to do that? Anyway, not a problem. Right, that sort of winds that up, really, doesn't it? If you change the code, if you're using this player, either the Arduino version or the PlatformIO version, to the HTTP 1.0, it will work. 1.1 will not work for BBC radio stations only. Okay, all other radio stations work on 1.1 as they should do. Right, okay, that's okay. And oh yes, quick word, if you're using my Arduino version of this, it's getting more and more out of date. Apart from the fact I didn't touch it from, you know, January to April, May time anyway. So nothing happened there at all. You haven't got the latest version. And you won't get the latest version for some time because it takes a lot of effort to move the code from the ESP32 platform to Arduino. So I'm toying with the idea of just doing a very simple how you set up PlatformIO on your PC. But the learning curve, I won't lie to you, the learning curve even for me was quite steep, right? And I'm used to sort of, you know, Visual Studio Enterprise level stuff, so had a sort of a little advantage there. Like I knew what to expect, but didn't quite understand how things happened in the PlatformIO world. So I'm thinking about doing that. The problem is, if I do that and you hit a stumbling block, a brick wall basically, like you tried to do something and the expected result is not there, you're going to put a comment and go, no, I've reached this point and now what? And nobody's got the time to sort of debug on an individual basis like that. So I might be digging myself a hole, so I might not go there after all. What I might do though is port, when I've got the next major release of this, I might port that to the Arduino again. For example, on here, if you notice the set, I'm trying to put some stuff in here, look, for the bass and treble frequencies. This is just a placeholder. These don't work, by the way. And maybe default volume settings, because once again, yes, the BBC, in its infinite wisdom, transmits at a lower volume than every other commercial radio station out there. Yeah, I know. So you're listening to BBC Radio 2, say, and you've turned it up a bit so you can hear it, and you get a bit bored with that one, and you go to a commercial radio station and it knocks you off your chair. I tell you, it's quite frustrating what the BBC is doing. For all its good work, somebody somewhere needs to be taken out and fired, basically. Right, okay, so once I've made a major change to this, whenever that is, I might port it again to the Arduino platform. interesting enough, as we've been speaking, I don't know, I haven't been keeping an eye on it, it's gone back to 0% buffering here, which means this isn't working at the moment. It should be at least 20 or 30% to work. I was trying to do something. Let's just see if it's actually playing at all.
And we definitely need to adapt, because we've changed so many things
it's recovered
on this planet already.
And it's gone up to 100% now. Oh, marvellous. Okay, good. There we are, a real live demo that this does actually recover from potential errors. If it was an error that caused that and not just them not streaming it properly. Right, now next week, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm already thinking of the new Raspberry Pi embedded controller and the Arduino one, right? The NRP20, what's it called? Yeah, they call it the Pico, don't they? Well, Raspberry Pi call it the Pico, and it's their venture into the embedded platform, because they've obviously gone the operating system route with their Raspberry Pis and turned them into sort of mini PCs like we need anymore. But anyway, they've gone that route, and they've suddenly realised the Arduino world has sort of collared all these embedded processors, so they've invented this new chip, the RP2040. Let me just show you that very quickly. So it's this one here. This is actually from Pimmer only, but lots of places sell it, of course. It's quite cheap. As you can see down here, the board only is £3.60, which is, you know, along the lines of what we'd expect to pay for something like a Nano or STM32 or something like that. Yeah. If you want pre-soldered headers on it, that's £6. That's £2.40 extra just for somebody to solder those headers on. I think I'll be doing that myself somehow. Anyway, the thing is, this is quite a powerful chip. It's a dual core, what is it, 133 megahertz. I think it's an M0, isn't it? Let's have a look. Oh, here it is, look. A Cortex M0 processor, ARM Cortex. How much RAM? 264 of RAM, 2 meg of flash. So it's quite a powerful board. Ignore that little tinkling sound, that's just my reminder telling me I should be doing things. And if you notice on that main picture, it's got castellated holes. Let me bring them up. So although it's got standard holes where you can put your headers in, they are castellated. Look, they're actually solderable on the outside. So you could solder this onto another PCB in the same way that the ESP32 is soldered, right? When you get a bare naked ESP32, there's not a lot you can do with that naked. You solder that onto some sort of daughter board and do your stuff with it. And that's the same here. So obviously Raspberry Pi people have learned quite a few lessons what's happening in the embedded world, and this is it. So I'm toying with the idea of getting one of these and seeing what it can do, but I don't know, I'd appreciate your comments on that really, because how many processors do we need? Why is this, for example, any better than say an ESP8266 or ESP32 or a STM32 that hasn't got wireless or anything? It hasn't, in fact, even got a reset button. You have to buy a little tiny extra add-on that Pimmer only do to have a reset on it. Otherwise, you've got to keep disconnecting that USB socket to upload your code. So there's a few things they haven't done too well, but obviously they will improve that over time, I guess. I don't know. Is anybody interested in that? What's this going to give us that everything else hasn't? Well, there's one thing it can give us, and it's this. Now, this is a really easy to use IDE for the Raspberry Pi platform, including the Pico, and it's Python basically. Now we could of course go the C/C++ route on the Raspberry Pi Pico, but because they've just not gone that way historically, it's all a bit, even Pimmeroni say it's a little bit experimental, some of their stuff. For example, writing to an SD card in C++ on the Pico is experimental. Something that, in the Arduino world you just take for granted, don't you? But here's a way where you could write some Python very, very simply, and it looks nice. This Thonny doesn't it make it sound like I've got a lisp when I say Thonny? I don't know. I don't wonder why they called it that. Anyway, it looks nice and easy, and I've just quickly whacked it onto my machine just to have a look, see what it looks like. I haven't got a Raspberry Pi to try it on. Actually, that's not true, is it? I've got a full-size Raspberry Pi. Can I use it with that? Maybe. That's not where the focus lies, that I want to try one of those embedded ones. Okay, so it's got some nice features, and I think, yeah, it's sort of, if you're going to encompass the microcontroller world, it could include this as well. So let me know what you think. Cool. Okay, right. Don't forget the BBC stuff then. Slap it onto your whatever radio station player you've got, not necessarily just this one, and see if it works for you. Yeah, let me know if you get success with this. Well, I know it works on here because I've had feedback already. Okay, cool. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching. Comments down below. Give me a thumbs up if you think it's worthwhile. I think Google's in shock that I've actually turned up again, frankly. It doesn't quite know what to do with me. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope you're finding these videos useful and interesting. There are plenty more videos to choose, and a couple are shown below. And if you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my picture below and enjoy the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching.